Hello guys, my name is Raphael and I will facilitate today the session Finance for LCPs. So first of all I want to shortly introduce myself. My name is Raphael, or people also call me Rafa. I'm the nice guy in the right of your desktop. I was Vice President of Finance in Magdeburg in the term 12-13. Currently I'm LCP and next year I will be in the FST. So Daniel, the smart guy, thought about, yeah, he will be the perfect person to deliver you the session, since he has knowledge in being Vice President of Finance and as well in being LCP. So the goal of this session today are that you understand the importance of finance, that you know how our finance system works, and that you know what is allowed and what is not allowed in our organization. Therefore, we have this lovely agenda. And the first part is that we will talk about the finance model, so about the LC contribution for, about the investment for. Secondly, we will talk about budgeting, and last but not least, about the legalities, so about the audit structure, and about your role as the only ordinary member of this organization in your local committee. And this is already the first point I want to highlight, why it is important to listen to the session and why finances in general are important for LCPs. Because you are the only ordinary member of your LC. That means that you are the only one who is really allowed to sign documents, and that means that you are the only one who is liable for everything. Secondly, of course, money rules the world. So it is not that funny how it is written here, but the decision on what to spend money determines all your processes in a very crucial way. So, for example, you have the decision if you want to do a project, or moreover want to invest more money for exchange and marketing material for exchange, then this is a decision that has to do with money, and that has to do with how much money do I have and for what do I want to spend this money. So it is kind of important to make a plan about your money. So let's talk about the financial model of Isaac in Germany. First of all, I want to explain to you what financial model means. The financial model describes how the single parts of an organization are linked together. And therefore it is important to understand how our organization is actually constructed. You all know that Isaac in Germany consists of 46 or 47 local committees. In finance speech, that means that we have 46 individual accountings and budgetings. But that's just on the first few, because we are one organization that is called Deutsches Komitee der ISEG e.V. We don't have LC Magdeburg, we don't have LC Köln, we don't have LC Passau as organizations. We just have this one organization, Deutsches Komitee der ISEG e.V. And therefore, we have de facto just one accounting. That means, for you as an LCP, in the first few, not that much. In the long run for our organization, that means that it's not the 10,000 euro you will have profit in the end of the year, and of course you all will have 10,000 euro profit in the end of the year. It's not the profit of your local committee, but it's the profit of our organization. That's just as a small information. Why do we have the contribution for? Why do we have a redistribution from local to national side? Well, the MC has a very big budget, but out of this budget they can't cover everything because the income of the MC is not that high. On the other hand, the MC is providing the LCs with services they would not be able to do on their own. Like, for example, all that marketing material and sales force and all of that stuff. Therefore, the local committees have to pay this service by the contribution for. And the contribution for has mainly three budgets. The first one are costs for international conferences. So when Nastasia is going to Taiwan to the IC, then it's covered by the contribution for. The second one are salaries for 3 MCVPs. And the third one are so-called LC services that includes, for example, the budgets of the single NSBs. How could such a contribution for looks like? Well, the simplest way of distributing the money would be that you would simply take the contribution for, which is overall 218,800, and divide it by 46. That would be easy, that would be simple, but that would not be fair, because that would mean that the LC of Karlsruhe and the LC of no idea, Dortmund has to pay the same. That would be quite cool for Karlsruhe, but I think not that cool for Dortmund. So we have thought about in 2014, before SMV, how do we want to spread this money? And I have to tell you that I will explain you now a model, or the model that will be valid from 2015 on. So 2014 we have another model, but I personally think that it's not important for you to know the old model, but it will be important for you to know something about the new model. And with the new model, this contribution for the share of your LC on the contribution for will be calculated by a minimum amount plus a percentage of the rest amount. The minimum amount now is calculated by minimum criteria of OGX times 225 plus minimum criteria of ICX times 700, since the average duration of IGIP internships is 7 months, times the exchange number that is done by the minimum criteria, which is right now 46 local committees times 5 ICX times 5 OGX, so 460, divided by the overall number of exchanges in Germany. If you calculate that, then it will be a number of around 1,400 euros, which is a minimum for every local committee. If you take this 1,400 euros times 46, then you will get the amount that is covered by the minimum criteria, and the rest of the money you will get by this formula. This is just the income of your local committee divided by the sum of the whole income of ISAC in Germany. So that means if the income of your local committee is 10% of the whole income of ISAC in Germany, then you have to pay 10% of this rest amount. That's even if this slide now has a lot of content, it's a pretty easy formula. If you want to check it, if you want to see it, it will be it is in the wiki of SMV 2014, or it will be also in the finance wiki, but right now, the time when I'm recording this video, it is not yet in the finance wiki. But I think when the new FSG is in charge of doing the wikis, then it will be uploaded fast. The second part of our session is budget planning. And first of all, I want to talk with you about the why of budgeting. So why do we do budget plans? The first reason I want to give you is that it reflects the plan for the next year. So you plan something and it is reflected within your budget. The second reason I want to give you is that budget planning gives you control over one of your most important resource, your money. So you can, if you have a good budget planning, you can clearly say when you spend what amount of money for what. In most cases, the budget plan won't be that good, but at least it gives you a framework in which your single resource can work. And the last thing, the last reason I want to give you is that it provides you with visibility for your performance. So if you are good, that is reflected in your budget plan. If you are bad, that is also reflected in your budget plan. What is most important for you as an LCP in budget planning is to know what are the sources of income and what are the sources of expenses of your local committee. And therefore I want to give you a short overview. Your most important source of income will be exchange. You will get 225 euros for every OGX you do and 100 euro for every month an intern is staying. A second source of income are donations, mainly through the board of supporters. And the third source of income you have are projects. Projects like an FKG or an Shuttle to Business, Firmenkontaktgespräch, so projects that has a purpose to earn money. This money you earned before you spend on mainly the LCCF. You spend it on conferences, so on the travel costs for conferences and for the fee. You spend it on your marketing, so for your flyers and some sweets and drinks that you can give on info evenings. You spend it, of course, for your office. Some of you has to pay, has to rent the office, and all of us has to buy paper and mochas and all of that stuff that is needed. And then there are also some smaller amounts of money that you spend, for example, for travel costs to companies and something like that. Of course, it is important that the income is higher than the expenses, but I think I don't have to tell you that. I want to provide you now with some tips and tricks I got in my career as Vice President of Finance and as LCP, how to use the HHP and budgeting in general. The first one I want to give is that you should create your HHP with realistic numbers. That means that you probably should not use your planned numbers from your Blavo for creating the HHP, but some smaller ones. I had it in my term as Vice President of Finance that I planned with too high numbers, and in the end we did not have any more money left when I got LCP. That means that we had to cover all of the conference costs on our own because we spent too much money in the first half of the year. Your planned numbers can be kind of a best case scenario, but you should also do budgeting with a worst case scenario and a middle case scenario. And the middle case scenario then can be your official Haushaltsplan. The other two you do that you see what you do in extreme situations. How often you should check the HHP? My recommendation would be that you should do it every 2 weeks. So it should be updated at least every 2 weeks. You can do it together with your Vice President of Finance or just tell your Vice President of Finance to do it. But you should have a current overview over your finances every time. And this overview over your finances should not just have you, but also your EB should have it. So your EB should know where we are right now. The reason for that is that maybe your EB can give some inputs you as LCP doesn't have and your VP-Fin doesn't have either. For example, if some interns you have planned with are no longer have a match break or a realization break, then sometimes it's the case that your VP ISAX isn't telling you that, but when he or she sees the HRP, then you can quickly update it. Or he has told it to you, but not to your Vice President of Finance, and then it's wrong in the HRP. And if it's wrong in the HRP, then you can correct it, and in the end you see, for example, yeah, you don't have that much money left. Which is not that cool, but it's okay if you see it before. If you see it afterwards, after you've spent like thousands of euros of conferences, and you then realize that you don't have any money left, then this is not that cool. A small hint from my side is that you give in the beginning every resort a budget, so that you are telling IGLP you have for your for raising like 200 euros, so that you can go to companies that are a little bit further away, or that you can buy company folders or some presents for our partners. Therefore, you have 200 euros. You can decide on what you want to spend them. This is motivating your resource and is leading that they really use the resources they have. And the last tip I want to give you is that you respect the return of investment. If you are studying administration or economics, you know what the return on investment is. For all others, I want to highlight the link I've provided to you. There it's described what the return of investment is, and the return of investment is simply a number which showcases how much return your investment has. Sounds simply, it's simple, but you have to use it. In the last part of our session, I want to talk with you about legalities. So I want to talk with you about, first of all, the annual statement, and then about your responsibilities as the only liable member of your local committee. The annual statement is the collection of all your documents you have for finance. So all your receipts are in it, all your member reimbursements, all your, in general, everything that is connected with finance and with accounting and with bookkeeping. It has to be done till the 25th of February, and it has to be physically in Bonn. That means till then it has to be done everything. And everything means that you and your VP Fin have to sign everything. So you have to sign almost every page of this annual statement. What happens with the annual statement in Bonn? Well, it will be checked by the LCPs and by the audit. And how the structure is. So first of all, I want to explain you what the audit is. The audit is like a team of finance people and of Vice President Finances, FS Taylor, and the RPs that are checking really every annual statement and every folder of every annual statement. And they're sitting there 24 hours, 7 in Bonn, and doing that. So give it up for them. It is a really tough job and it's not that easy, and they're doing it quite well. But it's not the only way of revision we have. So the annual statements, first of all, after they have been created, are checked within the LC, and that is done by you and by your Vice President of Finance. I think no Vice President of Finance will give the annual statement to Bonn without having checked it before if everything is correct. And you are also responsible for checking it, because if you give your sign under one document, then you say that you've checked it. So please really go through every document you have to sign and yes, tell if it's correct or not. After it was checked within your LC, it goes to the internal audit, and the internal audit is that what I described right now. It is done by the LCPs and the audit team in Bonn, and it's a revision of every folder of every local committee. And why do we do that? Well, it has two reasons. First of all, we need a good accounting for having a good budgeting. And the second reason is that we need a good accounting for staying an organization, for staying an association. That provides us the right that we don't have to pay taxes on our products, on our exchange products. And otherwise, if we would lose this right, we would have to pay this taxes. And that we don't lose it, we need a good accounting, and this accounting has to be so good that PwC says it's good enough to give it to the Finanzamt in Bonn. And that's our external audit. After the internal audit is done, 3 or 4 people from PwC come to the MC office in Bonn and also do the same what the internal audit did before. And the more they find, the longer they need. That means the longer the worse our folders are, the longer they need and the more money the MC has to pay, which is not that cool, because that also means that the LCs has to pay more money, and the MC has less money to provide the LCs with cool stuff. So let's talk now about your responsibility as LCP, and therefore I want to go back to the internal audit again. What happens if the internal auditors find something, like they find that something was bought that should not have been bought? Then they look who is responsible for that. And the only one in most cases who can be responsible for that is the person who signed it, the member who signed it. You are the member who signed it. And that's the problem, because then they will book it against you. And if they book it against you, that means that you have to pay it. So I want to beg you, please check everything what you sign. And if you say now, yeah, I want to do that, but I don't know where I have to be cautious, I want to give you now the no-goes of reimbursement in ISAC Germany. The first thing you are not allowed to sign are contracts with a value of more than 2,500. Contracts with a value of more than 2,500 are very crucial contracts, and therefore the MC wants to see it before and also to sign it. So if you are hosting a conference and you want to rent a youth hostel, then send the contract to Nastasia and Nastasia will sign it, or some other member of the LC. The same for long run contracts. You should not sign the contract for your office, but rather send it to the MC and someone of them will sign it. Of course, it's not allowed to buy alcohol and cigarettes. Alcohol is actually allowed for conferences, but also just in like homeopathic amounts. And cigarettes, of course, are not allowed at all. T-shirts are also not allowed because if you buy a t-shirt for your members or for your OC, then this is like a payment. You pay them for the work, and we are not allowed, or we should not, actually we would be allowed, but we should not pay our members. And what is also not allowed, and that's a thing of guesstimation, are expenses of an inappropriate high. It's not 100% sure to say what's an inappropriate high, but some years before, for example, there was one LC who did Blavo on Mallorca, and they reimbursed everything for this trip. And there the audit, for example, said, no, that was not cool by you, and the LCP has to pay the flight to Mallorca. So he had to pay a flight for like 6 or 7 people, which was then not that cool for the LCP, but actually the LC should not have reimbursed that. What happens to you if they find something or they don't find something? Well, in the end, after some years, you will get exoneration on SMV. Every one of you were on SMV 2014 or another MV. It was a motion where all of the LCPs of 11, 12 were listed, and this motion meant that even if they find now something in the bookkeeping that could lead to a booking against them, then it won't happen because they are exonerated. Finally, I want to give you some tips what you can do during your annual statement. The first one is start really early tracking your Vice President of Finance. It won't be enough that he's doing the annual statement in the end of February, because the annual statement is like the biggest thing a Vice President of Finance has to do, and it really needs some time. Actually, it should be ongoing, and if they start in the end of February, it won't be enough time. So track him or her already in the beginning of your term. You can always start now. Now it's the time of the semi-annual statement. But at least I would say in the time after Nadia, you should start with checking the folders and asking, and that's the next point, a lot of questions. Ask about every receipt you get, ask about the way the bookkeeping is working, because when you ask, no matter if you're interested in it or not, but when you ask, you see if your Vice President of Finance is doing his job or he's not doing. If he can't answer your questions, then probably there is something wrong. If he has no problems answering the questions, then probably is everything okay. The worst thing is that you get a bad mark in your annual statement, which would result in eventually getting member in spendment or member in alert in the next year. But besides of tracking, you should also support him or her. When I was vice president of finance, I sat 3 days in the office and were completely alone. 3 full days of being completely isolated are not really nice. And keep in mind that your vice president of finance has to do that in the end of February, and maybe even if he does not need your help, he needs your society. Yeah, that it was. Thank you for participating in the session. Thank you for listening. Thank you for reading. And I wish you all the best for your term. Bye.